Hey guys, welcome back to Spy Plays. Today we have our cEDH deck list tier list. This is a list of the top competitive decks for tournament play. We included actual recommended lists for these decks as well, so you guys can have the full 99 to play with. Let us know what you think about the decks we picked, and if we missed any decks, down below in the comments. Make sure to also like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. It really helps us getting these videos out. Thank you all for the support. Now let's get into the video. Hey guys, welcome back. We have today our deck list tier list. This is going to be decks that we think are pretty good right now and that we would bring to tournaments. This is going to be different from, our commander tier list, because those are just commanders, pretty vague. They don't have any decks attached to them. We're actually going to be giving you the nice 99, so you can look through and see what would be good for your meta and your tournaments, and give you guys more of an idea of what we think is good in the tournament meta. I got my co-host here, John, with me. What's up, dude?
Hey, what's up, dude?
Yeah, without further ado, let's get started into the first deck. It is going to be Blue Farm, which you guys all know.
What?
So, yeah.
What is this deck, Jesse? I've never seen this deck before.
I don't know, dude. I've never.
Has anybody ever done well with this deck in a tournament?
No.
No? Oh.
Not at all. Yeah. You guys, if you haven't been living under a rock, you know that this is the quote-unquote top deck in the meta right now. There are different ways to build it, but the ones that I've personally been seeing, and I don't know if you agree with this too, John, is the more mid-rangey blue farm lists. I think tending toward the mid-range plays into the Tymna strategy a little bit better. That also plays for like protected wins and stuff like that. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think like the time has gone where there used to be a time when Tymna Kraum was gonna be like doing the turbo game plan the best, and was gonna be like the best deck of the pod for for doing that game plan. And now, if you're trying to really be the turbo deck of the pod most games, you're going to suffer. And the deck has it has enough cards that allow you to just be able to play, to either go into the mid game or to concisely win early when it's right. That you can just build a deck that does a little bit of both.
Right. I think this is, in my opinion, the best mid-range deck in the format. A lot of people will think that it's a good turbo. Yeah, it is a turbo. It's kind of like tempo Doomsday in a sense. It's got the combo, but you're playing the tempo game plan.
Yeah.
And you're trying to protect. I think that's the biggest thing for this deck is the super protected wins are so clean with Grand
Abolisher, Ranger Captain,
Teferi. Yeah, so those cards just help you
your silence effects.
Do the breach stuff, and you obviously got the card advantage with Tymna, Kraum, and Nas. These things just get you closer to the overall breach combo, or you can just hardcast Oracle Console, or Oracle Tainted Pact.
Essentially what it comes down to is you have the most concise and you have the most efficient and concise win cons in the format to find your windows of opportunity to win the game. And while you're waiting to find that opportunity, you play the best interaction in 4 colors to stop opposing decks, and find your window and drop your Abolisher, and it's really just a pile of good cards that can maneuver through most stages of the game.
I think, with our next one, it's definitely going to be a pile of good cards. It's Najeela, the turbo build of this one. I think a reason this is definitely an S tier deck is it's able to leverage, Najeela, also kind of the same thing, like a tempo plan, while also having the combo backup. And I think that's a reoccurring theme of a top deck right now, is just being able to pivot, but also pivot efficiently. Not it'll take you a couple turns to pivot. You can just go from being, I'm gonna ready Najeela to doing I'm gonna Warriors Oath, go to my next turbo off.
Najeela is extremely efficient at doing this, and while it doesn't have advantage out of the zone, there are often games where playing card advantage commanders out of the zone like loses you a lot of time, and just like having Najeela, you get to like push a game plan, and then when like say playing the like normal most efficient win cons and cEDH is not right, like playing your Naz game plan isn't right, you just find your Derevi and win the game because people are like, yeah, or Grim Hireling or whatever.
Najeela being right now. Right, Najeela being a combo piece, as well as just being free, like you play Jewel Lotus, crack it, play Najeela, now you have 1 mana if you have a land drop to play around with, and all of the free spells are online, which was like a reoccurring theme with our next deck that we're going to be talking about, but it's having that like pivot to both the Najeela plan and the Turbo plan while also being just super efficient as a deck. It's really good right now, and I think the big cards that differentiate it from the like blue farm plan is Culling Ritual. I think is a huge one that's super good in this turbo type deck to just get you out of a lot of stuff, and then also being able to grind a little bit better through those stacks mid-range.
You have a lot of you have like extra acceleration from green, as well as some like extra good tutors and whatnot to find your win cons, and like a couple like a protection spell in Veil of Summer. But then you also you don't get the card advantage to like really have that late game threat ability unless you like find your good and like Ristic Study Mister or whatever. Those good cards, right? Which every deck has. But you just pivot to your other win con. And this deck is like just one of the best like turn 4 decks in the format. You're gonna throw something down, and you can choose which one you want to throw down, either your Naz or your Derevi, which is like way harder to deal with.
Speaking of Naz, our next deck is one of the best Naz decks in the format right now, and that this is our last deck in the S tier. It's going to be Rogsi, obviously, so people definitely know about this deck as well. If you've been playing for the last year, you've probably played against Rogsi. This is another turbo ad nauseum deck, but this one leverages Rograk, and it's a Grixis turbo Naz deck. And it uses Rograk to just accelerate so much faster and accrue mana advantage, and be able to activate all those free spells like Deadly Rollick, Fierce Guardianship, Deflecting Swat, and having those for protection, and being able to just push through early with a little bit of protection is pretty good right now.
The Rograk just like Rogsi just like it. Not only does it like give you access to a lot more mana, but it also gives you like a number of extra payoffs with like Diabolic Intent and Jeska as well. And then it also just like it gives you such this mana advantage that like you don't have to really spend time setting up, and like more than needing and its strength more than just like being fast is that it gets to like always have this ability, like once you get to like turn 2-3, it's like, okay, are you gonna like tap out to try and develop your Kraum or Tymna? Okay, I'm gonna punish you by having this double protected win now. It's like one of the best decks if you're seeing a bunch of like Tymna Kraum and stuff. Really punishes that game plan.
Yeah, this is a deck I would definitely bring if you notice a lot of blue farm. I did that in my LGS, and it just has been amazing. I also like the innovations that Brian Cook made to the deck with a lot of like extra turn spells and more wheels and stuff like that. It gave the deck a little bit more I don't want to say like explosiveness in a way, but a little more also grindability in a weird way. It's able to kind of, instead of trying to just jam Naz on turn 2, you can play a wheel on turn 1 or play a wheel on turn 2, and then if people want to counter that, then it's like then they're giving the game almost to the next person if you're in like a very turbo centric meta. And so it's very awkward, but it tends to do pretty well with
the dynamic of having like the wheels in this deck is so strong, as you're able to like develop your mana so quickly and like play onto the board, and then you can just like throw down these wheels that are almost always going to be much better for you than your opponents.
Always.
And yeah, and that has really become the grind plan of the deck now. Is it's like, okay, well, I can't like go for something right now. Let me just throw this wheel, while people are also just like stockpiling cards in hand off their Ristic, Mystic, whatever. It's like, okay, I will make that nullified.
Yeah, people also forget, like, if you can turn one wheel, you just like completely screwed everyone's hand, and the likelihood someone's gonna have a counter for you next turn if they don't hold up any mana is very low. It's like usually they kept hands that had something, you know, to stop you for that Nas, and then you wheel instead, or you can like play like something out like Necro or something else that's more of like a grind engine. And then it gets like this really awkward spot where like, I don't really want to counter that, and it's not like a win con, you know. So it's definitely the deck pivots a little bit better, I noticed, and it's got more explosiveness.
And it's also just like super interactive.
Very interactive. Like we joke, we call it mid-rog if you play it, because you can literally become almost a pseudo control deck sometimes.
You don't have to spend very much time. You don't have to spend a lot of effort to like quote get your engine online, because you're not like focused on getting an engine. You just play the spells in your hand, and then all of a sudden ROG enables a bunch of free interaction, and you just it's disgusting.
right. Yeah, so that's our S tier. Some people are going to be surprised on that, but yeah, I think I'm just going to put 3 decks in there. I was pretty happy with that. We're going to go on to
currently. I think that's what it is. It can change, but
it definitely can change. This is for the meta right now, by the way. So
like what we're seeing, and the online metas, basically
online locals, just what I've felt like is pretty good. Like, I think that's a solid S tier, and our A tier, all of these decks, honestly, I would personally play as well, and I think they're very good.
Totally good decks to bring to a tournament.
Yeah, and we're gonna go through them.
You can expect to do well.
Yeah, we're gonna
if
go
you
through
play
them
well.
We're gonna go through them a little quicker because there's a lot more. But our first one to round it off is Winota. Winota is one of my favorite decks. John definitely knows that. I've been playing this deck for a really long time, almost 2 years at this point, and it's been amazing. It's a great deck to take if you like stacks and you like to like push advantage. This is, in my opinion, the best stacks deck you could play. It pushes its advantage. It does nothing similar to, it does its thing very uniquely. So it's a very unique deck, and it's a very strong unique deck, and I love that about it. I do notice right now there is a lot of ways to deal with Winota, and a lot of people heavily expect it. It's people will expect it, and people will be playing also like more like mid-rangey grindy decks and able to like deluge you or win underneath you. Like say someone is playing like Minsc and Boo, like, or not Minsc and Boo, sorry, Minsc Beloved Ranger will like use like Hulk piles to get around your stacks and other stuff. So it definitely has been getting hurt a little bit more by the meta, I noticed.
And not also that, just like with its like success in recent times, I guess like not super recent, but just like it's had a lot of success, and with that success, has come a lot of hate. You can expect to be like facing a fair amount of hate, but the deck is still like incredibly strong at what it does, and is going to continue to put up results.
If you want to hate it out, though, that's the reason I'm putting it in A instead of S. A lot of people would put it in S. I've played it for 2 years, and I just felt right now it gets hated out, and when it does, there's not too much you can do, and you do have to politic really well with this deck, I will say.
You gotta have the Ian Golden Jaw.
You do have to politic pretty well.
Let me have this out so I can kill this guy. He's too far ahead.
Right. You do, and that's not something that a lot of people will want to do. But if you do like that, I will fully recommend it. Next deck is going to be TNT. We got 2 different variations here. We got the Cephalid Illusionist one, or you could also consider this one the Sacred Dude if you don't want to play white cards. I personally like this one a little bit more if you're going to go on
Ranger Captain good.
Yeah, I think Ranger Captain's great in this shell, and this is just the tried and true Thrasios Tymna. You know, it's pretty mid, literally. Like it is a mid deck, but it does grind really well. It gets, like I said again, it'll get through those Winotas, it'll get through some other stacks hate. if everyone's playing a mid-range deck, you're in a pretty good spot because you're going to be able to grind obviously with the Thrasios stuff, and it kind of like plays that game plan that I think a lot of people like, where they feel like they're affecting the game and like their play patterns and decisions, you know, really get through and shine. And I think that's why a lot of good players have been playing this deck.
And it consistently has access to its win con, and like I don't know, unlike certain other Thrasios Tymna decks, it will present its wins.
Yeah.
Like it will be able to find its like winning combos fairly easily.
Yeah. I included another list by Vasher, and he's tweaking and doing some other stuff. He's actually I forgot to shout out. I'll shout him out at them too, but he helped us with building this. His list in here is like a little bit more on the turbo end of it, and he's trying to do kind of the same thing, just a little bit faster, and able to present wins a little bit more. So it's kind of the same flavor. He's just not playing the
a little bit less like dead pieces.
Yeah, just less dead pieces, more turbo stuff. But you know, obviously that doesn't grind as well, or we'll get through like Nomad's Encore and stuff.
There's more hate that it like folds to and stuff. Yeah,
it's hard to counter creatures.
Which
goes straight into our next deck, Malcom Tana. This deck I think is a very good, just one card, what do they call it, one card Monty or two card Monty. It's technically a one card because Malcolm's your combo piece and Glinthorn's your other one, and you just got a dozen different ways to get Glinthorn out pretty easily and protect it, and it's kind of like a just deck that wins. It just knows how to win. Like it literally just turn 3, presents a win, protects it, and is able to get through almost every hate except like Norod and some other stuff.
It's not the fastest. Doesn't have like the best draw. It doesn't.
Right.
It's not really like the best at anything, but it's gonna have it, and it consistently has it, and it runs enough interaction to protect its wins as well.
Yeah, the list we included, the actual about said never didn't have it, which is true. Like honestly, it just always has it. There are some other like hidden combos in here we can like go over a little bit quickly, which is the Niv Mizzet curiosity effects.
I think it is some people have been like talking about how it's like not as good as it used to be, and I think that is the case, that the deck has fallen down a little bit in terms of its playability. I think it's definitely still in this A tier, but people expect and kind of know what's up when you're playing this deck, but you still just will often have it, and people can't always have the answers, and you'll get your wins with this deck if you play right.
You got Dual Caster in here and some other stuff, and it's just a solid deck that will get you wins like we've seen it before. Our next deck on this list is going to be Korvold. This is Jamaican Dude's Brew, and it's more of like a Treasure Storm one, and this is just a turbo ad-nauseam list that actually does really well in turbo metas, and that's kind of where I'd like to bring it. Dockside is one hell of a card when everyone is just dumping their hand. So if you play in like a bunch of Rogsides, a bunch of there's like a little bit of blue farms, turbo Najeela, like the top decks. Honestly, like,
I think
this deck is good to just slap in there.
Yeah, it's really good into I would say it's like really good into sorry, my dad just came in the room. It's really good into like these fast turbo blue decks as well, just because like I don't know, you're just able to resolve his Dockside, and all of a sudden your Dockside is not only like mana, like this huge mana engine, but is also this payoff that just allows you to like accrue this critical mass.
The Dockside, if you like Dockside and you like turbo, play this deck.
It is a deck that like can fall off when like the meta isn't doing what it needs, right? Like it's pretty reliant on certain things. It'll still like do its game plan even if you're not in like the best you're in the best pods for your Dockside, but you'll definitely feel it when your dockside is not making 5 mana on turn 2 every game.
Yeah, but I think like a lot of decks in general, you want to be playing them into certain metas if you think it's good, and I think it's good to metagame if you're gonna play tournaments, and that's what this deck list tier list is kind of about. So next one, we have our good friend, our other co-host Alex. We have the Vial Storm, which is Thrasios Vial Storm. He's been doing really well with this deck at RLGS too. And it's good. It feels like in between. We have a whole deck tech video you guys can check out, but it feels like an in between of Rogsi and Blue Farm, kind of like smack in the middle. But it's got like a bunch of different little cute combos, and I say cute in like the nice way of like just completely like necro, emergence zone, crop rot, like all these like crazy final fortune, like it just knows how to
nods on other people's turns.
It's pretty gross, and it's really annoying to play against sometimes because it's able to like almost do the Thrasios sandbag thing, but like way earlier in the game.
Way better, and way earlier, because it's like,
and it's also just a turbo deck. It's fucking fast as shit.
You're running the Sans White best colors for the most efficient strategy that currently exists, right?
Right. Yeah. It's definitely a good deck. Definitely check it out. Our next deck is the deck that I actually probably will be taking to Silicon Dynasty, and I'm considering it heavily. Is the Chapel of Chernobyl by Shiver, which is Jeska Tymna. And this deck is amazing. This deck has been so fun for me to play. If you like Marty Nod stuff, if you like really intricate like lines and just like being able to
micro combos, this deck has so many micro combos. And like
and it knows how to win. It knows how to win through so many different things. It's very resilient. It's probably one of the most resilient Nas decks you can play against stacks. Even against like a bunch of blue things. It obviously will cut. You're not getting blue, so you can't interact as much with like things, but you are able to definitely utilize your Jeska to kill things, and you have a lot of kill spells, you have a lot of random removal. It's got these Oswald lines. Because you have a infinite outlet in the command zone, it enables like 5 different combos that you can't have, in Blue Farm or other decks that don't have an infinite outlet, for their commander. And it's so fun. With Citadel, with like Oswald, there's like just this list is awesome. I would
deck is so scary good, and it's like this synergy pile that just has like so many ways to win through like almost anything that you can hurl at it.
Right. Yeah. It's the engineer welder lines. I could go on for days about this line. We're probably gonna do a deck tech on this one because this is a great deck. I would highly recommend to check it out. Good. This is probably like, if I'm going to give the #1 underrated deck just in the meta right now, I think this is probably the most underrated deck. People were really high on it before and they kind of just stopped playing it. But
I still don't think it's S tier. I think it's definitely A tier, but it's a deck that like people aren't playing very much, and I think this deck is very strong. It's comparably strong to all the decks in this tier.
Definitely. Next one is going to be Kenrith. This is going to be by Alex the Great and Accepted mainly. Accepted is the one that I've seen play this a lot. He has done pretty well with this deck in a lot of recent tournaments, and that's why I wanted to include it. And hey, it's Kenrith. It's 5-color good stuff, and Kenrith is a broken card, and it wins. Well, it just knows how to win.
Kenrith's like an okay card.
Yeah, but sorry, broken on paper. On paper, yeah. Like if you look at it, it does a lot. It's an outlet, it's an enabler, like it does a lot of cool stuff, and his list is pretty solid. It's good stuff.
That's the theme that you'll see.
It's something that will get through a ton of different things, and
you play the best, like most efficient cards in like in 5-color in a 5-color Sans commander deck, but then your commander is just like, okay, well now I have like a couple different options that I can do when the going gets rough, right? And
I think it's an outlet, and it's also a combo piece, or it's part of a lot of the combo pieces in the deck, which is cool. And yeah, I've seen it in a lot of games.
It's not a combo piece for a lot of the pieces in the deck, but like there's a number of things where you can like Image Dockside or
yeah, that's what I see honestly a lot. That's why I say that. The Fimage Dockside is a big reason to be playing Kenrith and getting it gets through stacks very well too, I will say. The next deck is going to be Kinnan, mid power by Hire and Jamaican dude. Another guy that we had in here. Hire's list is very scary to play against.
Yeah.
It is a terrifying list because it's running, as you can see, like Nyx Bloom Ancient, Void Winor,
Wandering Arcade, Jin-Gitaxias.
It's got some like fatties, but it also knows how to like win because it's got a little bit of combo in here too. So it kind of does both and is able to break heavy parity with Kinnan, which is really cool.
The thing about this deck is like if you can get to turn 3, which the deck has like a fairly good interaction suite to like help you get there. And even though like the meta is very turbo centric right now, most of these games, just like due to the amount of blue that we see, are able to get to turn 3, strangely enough.
Right.
And so you're able to like ramp out really hard and get a lot of use out of this Kinnan. And when people just kind of have like interaction sitting in hand, most of that interaction that other people play is just like incapable of touching you. All the meanwhile you're able to like use all of yours on other people to stop them from doing what they want to do, and all of a sudden you just kind of like amass like you get to just like put a bunch of these fatties with a bunch of like unique, extremely powerful either card draw or like stacksy effects that just become like impossible to deal with at a point.
Right, and then it's got like Basalt combo and some other
Mirage. And it wins pretty concisely after a couple turns of activations and whatnot.
Right, yeah, it's got some cool little things that it can do. It's a very unique deck, which I like. Next one is going to be Dawnwaker Thrasios. I'm not the biggest fan of this list, but I could see why it's good.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Thrasios,
but
Bruse Tarl, good. It's just 4-color, good stuff. This is another deck that really a lot of
Sans
pilots,
black good stuff, which is different than
true.
When you're playing a black good stuff deck, right? That just like and like 4-color anything with black, it just often turns into a like Nas shell. But when you don't have that, what are you looking at? You're looking at like evolution stuff. You're looking at a bunch of different like infinite mana combos that involve Dockside and whatnot. And then
it's A+B combos.
A+B combos that are also difficult to interact with, like being creatures, Dockside and Emil themselves are just like, okay, well, Dockside's really freaking good on its own. Emil is like, it's actually playable on its own. It's not a good card by itself, but you can like flicker your Eternal Witness or Spellseeker or a number of like other things. And yeah, you just have like a bunch of layered combos in this deck that allow you to for a deck that isn't running black that allow you to like find your opportunity to win while slowing people down with your plethora of interaction that this deck runs.
It's just jam-packed with interaction. This is a deck that, again, like a lot of people that like the TNT stuff but don't want to play black, they kind of will gravitate toward this deck as well.
Yeah.
Next deck is Minsc, another one of my favorite decks. This deck is sick. It is a Hulk deck, also a Vivian deck. It's basically like a Minsc is a sack outlet, and you're just playing like these good good sack creatures. I don't know, Academy Rector and Arena Rector, and then you got some other like lines in here that you can go in, and then you just play a little bit of stacks to just not lose. But it's kind of in that Malcom Tana, where it's just like turn 3, they just have it.
Yeah, you have so many things that you just like, all right, I've got my commander and one of my like 20 cards that wins the game with my commander. Boom.
yeah, it is. And you can do it also really protected, which is cool.
Yep. And it's another one of those decks where it's just like, all right, can I make it to turn 3? All right, I make it to turn 3. Cool. Counter this creature or you die.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, play. The things that it has a hard time with is like Oppo, Aven, and like more of like the onboard Craft Digger's Cage hate that I have to get rid of.
But we don't see it. We're not. Stax is really struggling right now.
Yeah, it hasn't been super. Yeah, I haven't been super high on Stax, and I haven't seen it too often.
No, I don't think it's great right now, unfortunately. As much as we love our Stax decks here.
Yeah. Next one is going to be Akiri Thrasios. So this is Evolution.
Yeah.
And it's an Evo deck that very similar to Bruse Thrasios. You could actually play Bruse Thrasios if you want. I think the Akiri gives some other combos. Not super familiar with the deck, but I know
lets you neoform into a number of like different things while keeping your Thrasios on board.
Yeah, you neoform into Spellseeker and some other stuff. That just it's like a 2-card combo type deck where it's an A+B and it's got a ton of interaction.
It's pretty close to the same deck.
They're very close to the same deck. This is just a little bit different.
It's pretty much,
Yeah, but I like that one. That one's done recently well. I forgot who played it. Helenium, I believe, played that. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one, which is Armix Kraum by Mikey J and Jamaica.
Yeah.
Armix Kraum is, again, Grixis good stuff. It's got a little bit more of the grind plan and also able to deal with stacks a lot better because of Armix.
Yeah.
Armix will just shred. It also shreds a lot of like the advantage engines that other decks will play. So like all those doors.
Tymna's getting too far ahead.
Tymna's, you're just nuking creatures out here. And Kraum gives you a little bit of card draw sometimes, depending if you're in the meta. I think right now it'll give you some draw, which is fine. And yeah, it's a pretty fast deck. I think it's arguably a little bit faster than Blue Farm. It's just a little.
It's just more focused than Blue Farm. Blue Farm doesn't. Blue Farm could be as fast as this deck theoretically, but it's better for it to not do other things.
Yeah. This is kind of like Rogsi with, if you don't want to go full just balls to the walls Rogsi.
You gain some points in matchups versus things like Winota and like other decks that are gonna be putting like weird hate bears into play.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a cool deck. I actually really like this brew. Next one. This is a brew I actually really enjoyed too, and Vasher played this to a top 4 recently. Is the Rograk Thrasios Polymorph.
Yeah.
So the Polykraken. You have Hullbreaker, Horror, and Tidespout Tyrant for your poly targets, and you use those to make infinite mana and outlet it into Thrasios like usual. And it seems like a very solid deck. It's got a lot of interaction. It's got a lot of ways to just one card win.
Yeah, deck has a ton of acceleration and like mana, as well as like a ton of ways. Yeah, it's a ROG deck as well as a ton of ways to just like put your win cons onto the battlefield, and it's like super consistent at doing what it's going to do. But then you also like get a little bit of grind power with your Thrasios and being able to like stick in the mid game, and when things get crunchy, literally just like pulling out one of your fat boys when there's like hate bears on the board that you can't win against. You're like, okay, well, I'll cast a spell, bounce one, bounce this other one, okay. And you can just like get through a lot. While actually this deck is extremely fast as well.
It is pretty fast.
There are people that like to say it's as fast as Rogsi. They're lying. They're not. I don't know. I don't think that they're lying. They have this misconception that because you run like 4 of these polymorph spells that are all 4 mana that you win the game immediately. You don't. You have to cast a spell after it. It's not 5 mana, just cast it and then you win. You have to cast something else. It's not as fast, but it's still really fast. And it can play slow games pretty well, and it can play like fast games really well. So and it's super interactive, and it does a lot. This deck's good. The only problem with it is sometimes it can be pretty hit or miss. Your hands that have mana acceleration are like really good, but then when you like get unlucky and you don't find any that have like a Soul Ring or Crypt or other card that combos with your Hullbreaker, Horror, or Tidespout Tyrant, not only do you lose speed, but you also like need those cards to actually win the game. So it winds up having really good draws and some draws that like aren't as great.
Bad, yeah.
But
I think
overall,
the one cool card I will say is Oath of Druids that you can play in here. So it's got some little neat stuff.
yeah. Overall, though, yeah, deck's really good.
Yeah. All right, let's get to the B tier. Here, these aren't like 100% A. So S tier is like, this is cream of the crop. This is 100% like what I would bring if I didn't want to like test anything else, or just wanted to like, you know, I play Rogsi myself, so I'd probably bring Rogsi, and I just wanted to like, you know, get some easy wins. And these are decks that I also recommend to people. So like, I'm playing Jeska Tymna in Silicon probably, but that's because I've been playing the deck for a while. Again, you should be playing the deck that you know how to play, but these are decks that we recommend for tournaments and that we've seen do well in tournaments. And then A tier is kind of same thing, like these are just solid decks that we see. B is decks that need a little bit of, I feel like, a little bit of support and will get hurt a lot more if they get hated on.
By certain things,
By certain things, and they don't completely hit the meta exactly, but they are doing something kind of unique and cool, and it is getting through, and you can win with them, and they are good. They're just not 100% what I personally would take to.
And they're also decks that I feel like you need to be on your shit with if you want to like if you want to like place with these decks and do well. You need to play like pretty well with these decks, but you can definitely.
The first one is going to be our own Kirrk by John himself. And this is the Phyrexian Meth Lab.
Deck sad as I am to put it in B tier, it is a B tier deck. But this deck is I mean, this deck does what it does, and it does it extremely well. The way that I built the deck is to punish greed to the maximum. If everyone's going to be greedy, you're going to be the greediest, and you are going to win on turn one in every 6 games, and you're just going to consistently have it. And the deck, for lack of a better word or words, it punishes greed like no other deck.
It catches people. It just catches people. Like, it really does. You get a lot of free wins just because it catches people, and it's not what people are used to a lot of times. They don't play against it, and they will not. They'll be like, oh, I'll tap out, play Mystic Remora, pass, and you're like, okay, cool. I hope you have a free counterspell because I'm.
But, like, all right, I'm going first. Cool. Your turn 1 risk study, I will blow through that and like still attempt my win. But the deck is very. Oh, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, you did the math on it. It's 80% turn 2, and you said 1 in 6 turn 1.
It's a little bit less than that, but it's close. It's roughly around like 77, I think. The deck is the deck can draw like a good amount of hate when people are prepared, and it's not like it's not very resilient, but you can actually play around a lot with the deck if you know how to pilot it well, which makes it like worthy of making this list, I feel like.
Right. Another one, which very similar to Kirrk in the fact that it can get hated on, and it honestly does, is Krark Sakashima. It's a very good deck, extremely good at like just once you get that Krark and Sakashima on board, it is like just go. Like, you are able to just do stupid things and make cards that seem really bad really good. It's a very, very sick combo, but it is able to get stopped, and if people, it's not as fast to set up either, like Rogsi or other decks like that. It does take a little bit of time to set up, and you can play kind of I did play this deck for a little bit. You can play a little like kind of weird control deck at first, and then like slowly build up to your Krark and Sakashima, but it gets hit by a lot of random things, and like if someone bounces your Krark in response to Sakashima, or
and you gotta take 2 turns to like fix your whole setup.
If you take it off the tempo and you don't allow it to get what it wants to do, if you just get rid of those like copier effects, it ends up kind of falling short a lot of the time, and it will sometimes screw itself over because it's flipping coins.
But there are a lot of pods where you play the deck where you can just like, if you play the deck well, you can convince people to like deal with other things and settle in as a control player, and then kind of when the dust settles and the time is right, you can pretty much just like jam all of your spells, and it's nobody's able to do anything about it.
Next one is another Mardu deck that I think is really cool. We just pretty much jammed this one together because we're trying to look at lists. Couldn't find one that we could like fully agree on, so we kind of jammed this together. But this is something that I think is definitely worth testing, and I think really fun. It is Rograk Tymna, so it's kind of the Jeska Tymna, similar to that, except you don't have the outlet in the command zone, which does hurt a lot, but you do get some speed, which is nice. You get some,
deck is super fast.
It's very, very fast, and you also get the Razaketh lines, which is cool with Rograk. You can utilize him to do some cool lines there. We love Citadel, and I put in the Citadel package, put in the extra turns. So this one utilizes those extra turns a little more, and I think you should in Rograk decks because you are getting that mana advantage. And those extra turns are just pretty much like a giant ritual if you think about it. That's essentially what they are. They're just giant rituals that allow you to go. You're taking an extra turn, but essentially you're just like getting an extra draw and untapping all your stuff. That's what it is. And because you're gonna win the game anyways if you're a fast deck. And I think leveraging the Abdel combo, which I think is really good to get through a lot of random hate in stacks, is really good to do in Mardu. And having a lot of these reanimation effects works really well with the Razaketh and Dockside stuff. I got Magda, so you can like copy Dockside and get a bunch of treasures, or just play Dockside with a bunch of treasures, sack it, go get Citadel. So there's a lot of layered combos.
Yeah, this deck has a lot of like different tricks within the Mardu color pie, and it also just has like the speed to tango with the format, and really like put people on the back foot. Among like also having a lot of good white protection spells. The deck is one that I think has a lot of potential. I don't think it's. I think people should be testing and brewing around with it a little bit more, because I think it's. I think it's something that like can be doing pretty well.
Next deck, I think is a really, really cool deck, and very similar to Niv Mizzet, and actually people have been doing pretty well with it. Specifically Shauna has been doing pretty well with Niv Mizzet, and I think this is very similar to Niv. It's got a little higher tempo.
It is better though.
Yeah, a little higher tempo velocity, and it's Malcom Kediss. This is it just kind of like a spell slinger tempo-y deck, and it's got the Niv Mizzet combo. I call it hidden Niv Mizzet. It's also got Glenhorn Buccaneer because you play Malcom. So you're able to utilize two different combos there. You also are able to play Breach Brain Freeze stuff. You get a lot of advantage off of the Curiosity effects and Malcom and Kediss. So basically, if you're able to, Kediss Malcom is just making Black Lotus mana, so it gives you an outlet for a lot of stuff. It gives you the mana for the outlet. But the Tandem Lookout, the Curiosity effects, they essentially make it so that you're recalling, or Ancestral Recalling, you're drawing 3, and you're making a Black Lotus every turn.
The amount of like, I don't know, the amount of like little synergies in this deck is insane, and the mana engine that this deck gives you allows you to do like so much and just always hold open mana for these faster decks in the format that we're seeing a lot of right now, right? It's got a lot of protection, a lot of interaction, along with like all of this layered synergy that works super well. You just had like the Curiosity effects. You have also like all the different treasure stuff that's been posted in like the last year and a half, that's been printed in the last year and a half, excuse me. And it's a deck that I also think is underplayed a little bit. And it just has like a concise way to win with Glenhorn Buccaneer.
It's one of the few control decks that is able to break parity and 1-for-1 each player, because if you're able to draw 3 cards and make 3 mana a turn, you're able to just constantly counter things and you're not losing anything. So I think that's really cool. Next deck is the actual best deck in the format.
Yes.
We forgot to include it. It's actually above S tier. We didn't know where to put it, so we're just going to give it to you now. No, it's actually B tier. This deck's the Tevesh Turbo Stax that we've
my
made.
baby.
This is John's baby. This is the Spite Place Special, as I like to call it. And it's a Planeswalker Tribal and cEDH. No, I'm kidding. We have a deck tech on this one as well. It's leveraging getting those stacks pieces. Right? Yeah, getting those stacks pieces out quickly. Hurting the meta in a weird way, though. It's playing stacks pieces that usually don't get played and affect decks that try to actually usually play around, like Winotas and stuff, like Curse Totem. It's got Torpor Orb.
I think we should be off of Curse Totem right now, but
I think it should be, but it does play it. You also can play like Soul Guide Lantern instead of that for that spot. It's moldable. It's a stacks deck, and then you're leveraging your Planeswalker activations through all this. You just make the most cursed board state ever, and you're just winning by just getting those activations, which is nice.
I will say a couple things. If you want to like get a good idea of like why this deck is good, go check out our video that we made on it. But what I will say, like just to be quick about it, is this deck really has an extremely explosive pace to get on the board and assemble its engine. Tevesh is an incredible engine with Rograk, and it allows you to break parity on a ton of the stacks pieces that you play. It allows you to take extra game actions along with all the other planeswalkers that you play, while simultaneously like being a win con in the command zone. And you just have like a number of things that a number of ways to put these extrememely hard things to win through onto the battlefield, and effectively like reduce all the options that your opponents have, like systematically one by one.
And then
I think it's I don't think stacks decks are very good right now, but I do think that this is I think it's like this one of the better ones.
No, I honestly think this is like second best behind Winota, which is kind of fun. Like it sounds like it looks like we're shilling for this deck. We're actually not. I hate this deck. I have to play against it all the time. I wish it wasn't this good. It's fucking brutal. It's actually like so annoying to play against sometimes, but it is good. It is annoying. You don't like
Karn? You don't like transfer?
It could get hated on. Yeah, especially Karn and Contamination when I'm playing with
deck still like loses a bunch of random crap, which when you're playing in a big tournament, you will run into people playing random crap, and it is unfortunate, but it is something that happens.
Speaking of random crap, Jetmir. I'm joking. Jetmir is the next deck we're going to talk about. This deck, I think it's kind of cool. It's gotten some recent results in I think 2 of the last tournaments, like kind of biggish tournaments that have happened. Opal Wave, I believe, played this in like the Cockatrice tournament and did pretty well. And
tournaments,
it's got that like kind of inevitable. You add an extra color. You're playing green, which is really good for stacks. And you're able to use that to get a little more tempo and also play better stacks pieces. And also you can play Winota in this list, and you're kind of like it's kind of doing the same thing as Winota, but a little bit worse. But also it's got the like end game like Winota 2, where like it
doesn't get like hated on from the command zone as much, even though it's like much less innately powerful. It's much less innately powerful, but you get to like play this stuff. You get to play all of like the best hate pieces in these Naya colors for the meta, and you have this commander that just like it doesn't care about any of the hate pieces that you play. You just play all of them, and then you play this, and you can just overrun so quickly. Really just like get people dead.
I think the thing that pushes this over, like in terms of why you would want to play this over Winota, is that it's able to utilize all 3 Null Rod effects. which is really good right now in the meta. The artifacts are just broken, and it's able to do that and also play a little bit more on the top end. Usually Winota also plays on the top end, but it's like cheating those out. This one you're hard casting it, but you're able to like get that advantage while
you're able to buy the time really by playing so many impactful stacks pieces.
Right.
Yeah, I think playing Null Rod is really hard right now. Like, it's so good, but like to keep up with what everyone else is doing, it's really hard to play Null Rod in your deck, play it effectively, and keep up with the pace of everyone else. And that's like one of the decks. It's like one of the decks that like I think it's like the only deck that I can like look at right now that I'd be willing to play.
As a stack deck,
that plays Null Rod.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for that one is Null Rod, and it's also plays Winota. All right, let's get on to the next deck. It's count to 11, and you win, and that's it. And no, I'm kidding. This is Godo Bandit Warlord. So it's obviously mono red. You got some weird Trinisphere, weird stuff in here that's cool. This was my like baby for years. Yeah. I love this deck. But it's a deck that I can easily just recommend, give to someone that has literally never played cEDH, borderline never played Magic, and like they could legitimately make like top 8 because it knows what it's doing, and it has a lot of removal. Like it has a ton of removal for like the hate pieces that it needs to get rid of.
Yeah,
and it doesn't care. Like it just goes.
The thing about Godo and being in mono red has like a couple things, right? Even though you're like limited by mono red, red has all the answers for the stuff that Godo loses to, which is like really big for it. So it's like there are a number of hate pieces that are like played right now, like Draenith and Opposition Agent, that are like fairly common in those colors. If you're seeing black or white decks, they're probably gonna be playing that. And the deck just it knows how to win, which I think is like super important. I think it is not very fast, which is a problem, and it suffers a lot from that right now. But there again are a number of like those pods where people are just like playing these grindy blue decks or just playing even turbo blue decks, and they all stare at each other, and then you can just like throw down Godo and find your spot in between everyone and get your wins with the deck.
It just makes sense, and it's a fun deck. I love that deck. Next one is gonna be Ikra Dargo. This is also a very fast list. It's the what is this? Jun Nas. Just fucking jam, and it's fun. I think this deck's fun. I've seen people play. It's a really, really cool deck.
Yeah.
I know John included this, so you can talk about this one a little bit.
Yeah. I really think I've seen a couple of tournament results with this list recently, and I've always known that this deck has been around, but most recently I've been like thinking about the deck and like why it actually like has legs right now. There's a lot of greed right now, and this deck is one of those decks that punishes the greed really well and consistently is able to put up those turn 2 win attempts and make it really difficult for opponents to do things. And it is one of those decks though that you need to like know very well and like pilot it well, because like the mulligan decisions with the deck are very, very important. I think it's a deck that if you're a good pilot, you can do well in a tournament with.
That ends out our B tier. We're gonna get into the honorable mentions. We have 4, and obviously, we can include every deck in cEDH or not even every good deck. These are just decks that we know about, we've played or played with, that we thought were pretty good. So these honorable mentions, honestly, are. Some of them, I think the Yeva and the Kaalia are from like our local meta that we've just seen do really well, and also like online results too for like Yeva specifically. That deck has actually done pretty well, and that's the next one. It's just a really weird deck that a lot of people don't understand how it works, and it just will win on the stack, like on top of people. It's kind of like Flash Hulk, but mono green, and a lot of people aren't ready for that. and if they're playing the like Thrasios, Tymna, Sandbaggy plan, you just catch people, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah. There are a number of pods that you'll wind up in where people are just really do not care what you're doing when you play this deck, and you get to like kind of find your time and wait for somebody else to do stuff and slow down the game a little bit with some of your like niche stacks effects, and really like not have to fight the table. That's what the deck does so excellently, and it can like find its spot, but it's just not something that we see enough to really like put it in a recommended tier. But it's something that I think is like worth exploring.
Yeah, I've just seen it done really well at our LGS, and it's something that catches a lot of people, and it's pretty cool to just like throw out. The next one's gonna be Kaalia. Another list is done super well at LGS. This is again a Mardu shell. This one kind of leverages Kaalia to play that almost like reanimator style, but instead you're just like throwing the demon out onto the battlefield. It's got really good grindability. I've seen it played a lot, and it's done really well in our local meta, and it's a good Mardu deck. Honestly, a lot of people are underestimating this deck.
Yeah, the deck. I think the deck like it takes a lot of practice to figure out how you're supposed to mulligan with a deck like this. There's a lot of like weird cards in it, and there's a lot of like hands that are a little bit awkward. However, if you like know how to play this deck well, that you have so many angles that you can attack from, and so many ways that you can like find and like squeeze wins. And this is a deck that also just like knows how to win, and that's something that I've said like a lot in this video already. And I think it's something that's like super important right now. Your deck that you're playing, really you want a deck that knows how to win,
especially
and
in tournament time.
Especially in
tournament. We play in 50-minute rounds. Like we built Rog Tevesh Turbo Stax, and people have criticized, how does that deck win in time? And we're like, we tested it for 8 months in 50 minutes.
Turns out
it actually wins very fast.
Turns out when people can't do anything, they can't waste your time, right?
Right, yeah, that is a good thing. But this deck is Mardu deck, so it fits on Mardu, Nas, Breach stuff. It knows how to win. Next deck, actually, I think is really interesting right now. Another Naya deck is Rocco. Another deck that I think honestly knows how to win really well too. It's a lot of just A plus B combos, or even A plus B plus C, but you have Rocco to tutor out any piece that you need, and then you can bounce them back to hand and then play them again and tutor out the other part. And I've seen this deck honestly do pretty well, and it seems like a solid deck.
Yeah. I've seen it a couple times. I haven't seen it enough to really, I don't know, like feel like I can put it in one of the tiers above. I think it's probably an A tier deck, but I'm not certain on that.
It might be near Minsc, honestly. I just haven't seen it enough.
Yeah, I think it needs a little bit more time for like the brewers to kind of like find the list for it and whatnot. But I've seen like great stuff. What I have seen from the deck it's looked really solid.
Yeah, I think leveraging also, like, it plays the oof, it plays the stony sound, so it's able to get past those effects, and also have a combo to get through it, which was Food Chain. And Food Chain, usually, I've always thought that card is, or not always, but the Food Chain combo has gone down in value over the years, but I think in this deck it actually is very, very good. I think it actually does really well in the Rocco shell and is able to get through oof effects, so it's cool that you can play both. Let's look at the Shorikai list. This is going to be our last list on the little deck list tier list. And this is cool. I like Shorikai. Honestly, if you like to play blue-white, if you like to play blue-white control, this is pretty much blue-white control, and it's able to break parity on the controlling by drawing an extra card every time you activate Shorikai. So, it's also got a way to win with the polymorph stuff, so it's still a poly deck that can, get through and win. And also, Humility is a card that's actually broken.
Yeah.
If you can get through it, no other deck can get through it.
Yeah, this deck gets to play a lot of unique hate pieces that are pretty heinous.
Yeah.
And it is a pile of interaction. Look at that instant suite. Like, dear
27.
God.
Yeah.
It's not a deck that I've seen enough in tournaments to like be able to put it on this list, but I think it is something that I think it's something that I want to continue to see going forward, and I think it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
I think this deck, I think it has promise, and can be something that's like playable and people can do well with.
Yeah, cool. All right, that wraps up the deck list, little database that we have here, our tier list. And yeah, we're gonna have all the deck lists. I'm gonna have a little Google Doc you guys can look at with all the links. You can click on the decks, and it'll take you straight to the primer. We have really good primers on here with all the authors mentioned. So I hope you enjoy. I hope you guys. I hope to see you guys at Silicon Dynasty. We'll be there. So.
Oh yes, it's gonna be a fun time. It's gonna be a grand old time. But before we go, if you guys think we missed any decks that you think are like tournament playable, let us know. I think one that I wanted, that I think like I'm thinking about now that I probably would have put on honorable mentions as well, is the Neoform Consecrated Sphinx Wheels Hold On Paco list.
That's right.
I think that's
I'll
one.
probably throw that on there, honestly.
Yeah, that's one that I've seen a lot I've seen from like my personal play group, and it's a deck that I've noticed just like bullies blue farm if there's like a blue farm player in a pod, and then there's like a couple other decks that can like, I don't know, kind of like pull the threat off of it, that also plays at like a pretty good pace.
It has a big chunky dog.
Yeah, a big chunky dog.
That's wonderful. Cool. Yeah, thank you guys for stopping by and watching. Hope you guys have a good rest of your night.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, if we get it out by then, or Happy Holidays. Well, I don't know when we're gonna get it out, but
we'll get it out before Christmas. All right, see you guys.
All right. See ya.